We have to mute ourselves.
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I see people are entering our Zoom house here. My husband just brought me some Prosecco, which I'm very, very grateful for. I'm not sure where he found it, but looks very photogenic here. So we have a lot of people today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Wendy Perrin, and we have with us today several of the Italy travel specialists on our WOW list. I can't wait to introduce them to you. And I know you can't wait to hear all of the news about Italy and what to expect when you get there. So let's go ahead and start with Andrea Grisdale, who lives on Lake Como. Andrea, you have been throughout the pandemic, you have been living in Italy and you've been traveling in Italy every time there wasn't a severe lockdown. I've been seeing you taking trains and planes and inspecting hotels. So now you were telling me that, basically as soon as the news breaks that US travelers can come to Italy, they're just gonna, you've got somebody who's there right now and you don't even know how he got there.
Yeah.
What, they're just like, because people are just absolutely chomping at the bit. They can't wait to get on that plane.
Absolutely, Wendy, and I see my colleagues all nodding their heads. I could share so many emails. We literally have people saying, if I fly to Greece and I land in Athens, can I get to the sea? And then can I take a ferry to Puglia? And from Puglia, how do I get into Italy? Or if I fly to Croatia, can I come through night into Italy? Will there be checks on me? We are literally at that level right now of people seeking to come into Italy. So I'm very sure, we've been talking for months now. We made a forecast that we would be welcoming our US travelers back from Q3, so from July onwards. And I honestly believe that seeing all the emails coming through, the minute we do receive the information from our Prime Minister, and we are literally all holding our breath for that moment, we will be seeing people booking those flights and they will be on their way.
And what do you think the entry requirements are going to be for US travel? It sounds like you either need to be vaccinated or a COVID test within 48 hours before departure, or evidence of antibodies because you were infected.
Exactly, Wendy. That is exactly what we are expecting them to announce and what we are hoping they are going to announce. There has really been a lot of pressure or a lot of lobbying on the EU, especially from WTTC, to not discriminate against people who haven't been vaccinated yet for whatever reason. Also, of course, we have many families traveling to Italy. As you know, it's a beautiful destination for families. And the last thing we want is the parents can come in and the children can't. So we are hoping for those three conditions. Either you're fully vaccinated, you have a negative test within 48 hours of travel, and even if you have to test on arrival in Italy as well, I think that's totally okay, because our airports are fully set up to do that, because that's the way the COVID-free flights are functioning right now. Or of course, you've had COVID within the last 6 months.
So you can actually get tested upon arrival in Italy. And then what happens? Do you need to quarantine in your hotel room for a certain number of days or hours, or for how long? How long before you get the test results?
So for our guests arriving on the COVID-free flights today, Wendy, basically you will have your test within 30 minutes and you are at the airport as you're waiting for your test, and then you get your negative result and off you go, collect your luggage, and you're free to go and enjoy your vacation.
And so you all are really ready to take care of travelers now, it sounds like. It's not even a matter of waiting until July. It's like there are people arriving, and as soon as the news breaks, you're expecting people to just be on the flight that night.
We have no doubt about it, Wendy, honestly. And our hotels, they are all fully set up. We have health security protocols in place. Everybody's extremely respectful. Restaurants, bars, shops, we all know what we're doing. And everybody is just waiting for that big announcement.
Yeah. Now, one of the reader questions we received, which I thought was so interesting, was will any of the popular tourist sites in Italy require a vaccine? In other words, that there might be one test to get into the country, but then certain, I don't know, a museum or the Colosseum might have it. That's not going to happen, is it? Or are there certain places that would require a vaccine within Italy?
That is very unlikely, and it's definitely something that we haven't heard of. However, Wendy, as you did mention those sites, one thing I would love to highlight is the traveler experience is going to be so enhanced, especially this year, and I believe in 2022, because capacity is limited. For example, most places they've limited to 50% or 60% capacity. So this will be the one summer you can come into Italy in high season and totally enjoy these sites and not have all the crowds and a lot of people around you.
Cool, very cool. Now, as for going back to the US, there is this requirement that you need to get tested before you come back. And one reader asked, are you or your hotel contacts able to assist with that test before returning to the US? I'm sure
Absolutely.
you guys are all completely set up to do that. Like,
absolutely, Wendy.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The majority of our hotels are fully set up to actually do testing within the property. We also have so many testing sites as well around the country that are very easy, very reliable, very quick and efficient. And you can also do the test at the airports as well, both Malpensa in Milan in the north and also Rome Fiumicino.
Mm-hmm. And another question was, are the country's high-speed trains running? And if so, are they running normally or with constraints of some sort? I think a lot of people are wondering, to what degree are they going to be able to get around, like move from district to district, take the trains, get around? What can you tell us about that?
Absolutely, Wendy. They are fully running. They've remained running throughout this entire pandemic. I've been using them a lot. I know you follow me on social media. You see me often on the train. They are running at 50% capacity. And if you remember the layout of the train, especially the fast trains, we have the 4 chairs. So literally, I have no one next to me and I have no one directly in front of me. I only have the person diagonally across. So once again, you feel very, very safe, and social distancing is always respected.
I'm sure. I mean, taking Italian trains is a lot. It's one of my favorite things to do. So, especially looking out that window. So yeah. I can imagine. Now, I think, I think a lot of people are thinking, okay, we could probably go as early as June or July. Some people are thinking, but a lot of people are thinking about this summer. If you could choose one place to go in Italy in July, because it just seems really, it's very physically distant. If there were one place you could go where it's just like, because of the logistics, because of the local situation, where would you choose and why?
So, I live in paradise. I live on Lake Como. So I would go to my next favorite place, which is the Amalfi Coast. And I have to get the boat and enjoy that beautiful boat ride for the day and head over to Capri for my aperitivo in the piazza.
How is the situation on Capri? And also, I mean, Italy has so many dreamy islands, in that down south there. And how is the situation there? I mean, has COVID, has it been more or less? What's the vaccination situation?
So Capri, Ischia, they've really made a huge push, Wendy, to become COVID-free islands. So to get everybody vaccinated very, very quickly so that they are 100% sure that they are so ready to welcome back the visitors. Great,
good. Well, Andrea, and I just want to mention to everybody, Andrea got married during the pandemic last year on Lake Como in a park. All very socially distanced and beautiful. And I just think that's such an accomplishment. I mean, wouldn't we all have loved to have had a wedding in Italy during the pandemic? So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Well, let's move along to Jennifer Virgilio. Jennifer is in Rome and has been in Rome has been living there throughout the pandemic. But Jennifer, you've also been traveling a lot. I know. I included not just within Italy, but to other countries too. One of the questions that came in is, how is Rome now? And so I thought we should ask you, considering that's where you are.
I'm here. I think life is going on here, and we're, for the last 2 weeks now, we've been opening up. Restaurants are open for outdoor dining, and the weather is changing now. It's becoming more beautiful, so that's also helpful. And the shops are open and people are moving around, and the traffic is definitely back again. So my daughter's been in school this whole year, except for a 2-week period in March. So for us, even though, COVID is still around, and like Andrea said, here we're, everybody's very respectful of following the rules and socially distancing, wearing our masks where we're supposed to, and doing all the right things. But life has been going on. It hasn't really felt like we've been in prison.
Lucky you. Wonderful. So tell us about what's open and what's closed, and what, in terms of, I think, what everyone wants to know is, okay, if I go to Italy, are the shops going to be open? Are the historic sites, the restaurants, the museums? What can I do and what can't I do? Can you give us a sense of like what's open and how is it going to be different?
Currently, as of today, the restaurants are open for outdoor dining, but we expect that they will be open for indoor dining. We're waiting for the new decree to come out. And as we said before, we're all chomping at the bit, ready, waiting to go as soon as the announcement comes out, which we're expecting this weekend, hopefully. And museums reopened about 2 weeks ago as well. So all of the sightseeing is open, although currently we're not really supposed to have visitors arriving for touristic purposes, but Italians can go around and we can go to the museums and we can go shopping. Our shops have been open even longer than 2 weeks ago. And it just, like I said, it just feels like life is going on. Pretty soon when the new decree comes out, they'll open for indoor dining. We're still kind of trying to understand what the restrictions will be. As Andrea said, also, we expect that there will be limited number of people to enter the Vatican or the Colosseum per time slot, but we still are waiting for, exact information. So it is a great time to come if you're able to come, because you will be able to feel like you have Rome still to yourself, or anywhere in Italy to yourself, because it won't be as teeming with tourists as it was in 2019.
Right. And how hard is it to get museum tickets to historic sites? I mean, is it all timed ticketing and you have to make reservations? And
yes, you must make reservations. Like, in the past, how you used to always have the Vatican, the queue around the Vatican for miles long. That's no longer. So you must pre-book your reservations for any of the touristic sites.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You have an idea of how easy or difficult that might be? I mean, obviously if people come to you, you'll book everything for them and they don't even have to worry about it. But for do-it-yourselfers who want to get online and go to the Uffizi and figure it out, is it going to be, how hard or easy is it going to be?
Well, I think it depends. Right now, I don't think it will be that difficult. Right now, also, they're only open up for a certain amount of time. So, for example, I think the Vatican is only selling until the end of June. So if you wanted to book Vatican for July right now, I don't think that you can. Same thing happened a couple of months ago. We went to a museum and we tried to pre-book it, but they were only selling it every 2 weeks, because every 2 weeks the new decree comes out. So you just have to keep on waiting to understand when the dates will open up.
Okay.
But yes, I mean, if things, we do expect that, as soon as everything is open and people know that they can come, that it will be busy overnight. Absolutely. But at the same time, I still agree that it's going to be a great time to come this year, anytime this year, because there are still going to be a lot of people that can't come. Asia can't come, for example. Other markets of tourists can't travel outside of their destinations. Australia can't. New Zealand, they can't come here. So even just from that perspective, even if you just have American tourists here, it still won't be as busy as it was previously. So it's an amazing time and opportunity to come and visit these museums and see these historical sites and visit the country. And like I said, I mean, last summer we were traveling around and it didn't feel like COVID. It really didn't feel like we were in a pandemic. We were really able to live life, enjoy the country, enjoy the food, enjoy the wine, enjoy the sights, the beaches, everything. It was such a magical feeling. And I really, truly believe it will be like that this year as well.
And so if you could choose one place to go this summer in Italy, where you think it'll be almost like pre-COVID times, like, you know, this wonderful, luxurious, you know, return to a normal life. If you could choose one place in Italy, where would you choose?
It's such a hard question. I know where I'm going, so I'll share with you where I will be. I rented a villa in the Argentario, so the Tuscan coast, on Porto Santo Stefano for 2 weeks. And then I'll be in Florence for a week. And then I'm not sure, I'm debating maybe Amalfi Coast with Andrea. I don't know, I'm not sure. Every year we say we want to go to the Dolomites, and I think that is a fantastic summer destination to go hiking and enjoy the fresh mountain air. So it's very COVID friendly because there's a lot of space and fresh air and beautiful, stunning scenery to see. So it depends on the people, because also some people are museum goers, and this, again, I really do feel very strongly that this is a year to go sightseeing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to know how I can swing an invite to your villa for Tuscany coast.
You're more than welcome. You can come over.
Jennifer, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along, I'd like to go to Maria Landers and Brian Dorr, who are in Connecticut right now, but they are good. You're going to be in Italy on you're flying on July 2nd, right?
Yes. We actually live in Italy, usually part of the year, but over the last 15 months, we didn't go back. So we are going in July. Our plan, we have tickets for July 2nd, and they are changeable, of course, but we have every confidence that we'll be able to go. And we're going to go on a boat with some friends, go down south, go around Marcello's neighborhood, Sicily, visit some islands, and then we'll go to our home in Umbria for a little while.
Right, exactly. And so, you know, a question came in from a reader about Umbria, saying, how has Umbria been affected? Will most restaurants have outdoor dining? Is Florence expected to be crowded in September? What do you think?
So Umbria was not as affected at first by COVID. It was always kind of a yellow zone or better, and you know, it's just, there's small towns in Umbria, and so I don't think, you know, there's plenty of outdoor space for dining. I mean, all of Umbria moves outdoors in the summertime anyway for dining. Nobody really wants to eat indoors. In Perugia, for example, or Montefalco, or, you know, even little towns like Bavagna, it's all very, you know, and then the villas, everybody out in the countryside, they're all, you know, there's plenty of space to social distance in Umbria. We just don't get the traffic that the other, you know, big regions get. As far as Florence in September, I think it's perfect. I mean, the weather's starting to cool down, and I wouldn't see why you wouldn't want to be there.
Florence can get extremely crowded in pre-COVID days. And I think per what both Andrea and Jennifer said, there just are not going to be the big totals of people this year. So I think it will probably be very pleasant. And Florence is in Tuscany, by the way. But
well, I know, but there was another question actually from another reader about Tuscany. We were invited to a wedding in Tuscany in October. What can we expect will be open, and when should we make travel arrangements?
You should make travel arrangements ASAP, because I will tell you, I am already seeing sold out small hotels, and even, you know, if you, you know, entry level rooms in big hotels sold out dates in September and October already. So people are planning. If you are planning to go, you should make your plans as soon as you can. And then what was the other part of that question? Oh, what can you expect? We don't know for sure, but we're waiting for the announcement. We're assuming that the sites will be open as they are now, maybe with more extended hours. Now in Italy, which is still under, a sort of lockdown, there's a curfew, and I think it's 10 o'clock right now, ladies. And it is expected to be extended to 11 or 12 or maybe eliminated. And so we're hopeful that all of those changes, assuming everything goes well, can be extended into the fall. So things could be, pretty much, I think everyone's trying to make it as normal as possible.
I think one thing that people who are coming, like as a group of 8 to 10 people, might find is that you may need to get more cars.
Right.
I mean, from what we're hearing from our drivers, there are restrictions based on the occupancy in the vehicles. Most of the Mercedes Viano has 7 or 8 seats in it, and no one's allowed to sit up front with the driver right now, and no one's allowed to sit in the middle seat unless you're all in the same family. So that means that maybe only 4 can go in a car. That seats normally 8 or 7.
Right.
And so, if you're coming in a group, which sound like a wedding would possibly be doing, and traveling in that style, we may need to get more cars for you, just to make sure that everybody's safe and we're following the rules.
Right.
One thing that we've found with all of our providers is that nobody wants to break the rules. So if people come to us and say, hey, can you break the rules for us? It's like, it's just not a thing.
It's not worth it. Yeah.
Right. And since you all are opera singers, I wanted to ask, another question was about what is the outlook for cultural events, festivals, concerts? Can you talk about that a little bit? Because will they exist, but at greatly reduced capacity?
Yes. So we're on the board of the Friends of Festival Verdi, which takes place in Parma every October. It's a 4-opera season, and of course, it didn't take place last year. It was all virtual online, and they're holding out, right now to see if they're going to be able to have a real in-season, in-person performance. As you know, the theaters in Italy are small. They're not big. Most of them are older as well, and so it's difficult to social distance. But that being said, culture is very important, and so they've been trying to find ways, whether it's pre-recorded things online, things that are in piazzas, outdoor concerts, to make at least some of the cultural life come back.
I think there will be outdoor concerts and cultural events. I think La Scala announced that they plan to have their season, which is indoor.
Yeah.
But they will have reduced seating for
Yeah.
sure. And because as we found out to our surprise, singing is one of the most dangerous things you can do during.
Yeah, opera singing is incredibly dangerous for COVID.
You're just spewing things at everyone. So
the last normal thing we did was attend Fidelio in Covent Garden. A friend of mine that I sang with in Germany was singing in it, and we found out later they all had antibody tests. Everybody in the cast, Jonas Kaufman, they all had COVID at the time.
And we were there in March.
And we were there traveling around in the taxis with them and hanging around, and we didn't get it. So, I'm either immune or whatever, but now I got my vaccination card, so I'm okay.
Okay, but you guys live dangerously.
Yes.
Well, we were laughing about our skills.
Who knew?
We're travel planners. We're opera singers. Brian had a career in a restaurant. But we don't have any COVID-friendly skills, so we're glad that everything is returning to normal.
Exactly.
Speaking of restaurants, that's the last question I wanted to ask you, is just because you guys are such foodies and you arrange these amazing culinary experiences in the countryside, and I'm just wondering, what are some of these food experiences that can be done outdoors, like in vineyards, on farms? Can you paint a picture for us of a day in the country where you can have a variety, I don't know, making cheese but all outdoors and safely?
Right. So many of our, visits and cooking classes take place on farm properties, like vineyards, etc. And so a lot of these places have been set up for somewhat of an outdoor kitchen situation, etc. So I've done outdoor cooking in Umbria. I've done outdoor cooking in Sicily. I've done outdoor cooking in Tuscany. It's not like, you can roll out the pasta at a table in the garden. You don't have to roll it out in the kitchen.
Mhm.
You have to boil the water in the kitchen, but you don't have to roll it out
Yeah.
in the.
But some of our places even have outdoor kitchens, with burners and everything outside, so that you don't have to be in the
And
house.
I know Mara will talk to this about. I mean,
Mhm.
many of the villas have an outdoor
Mhm.
setup,
Mhm.
and grills and pizza ovens and everything like
Right.
that, all outdoors, ready to
Right.
go. So, and as far as farm visits are concerned, I mean, there's total social distancing is allowed
Olive
there.
groves, we do cooking at olive groves, cheese making, as you mentioned, you can visit cheese. I mean, some of it's going to be inside, but they're in pretty big. The inside portions are pretty,
Right.
the sections
I
are
mean,
pretty large.
Anybody who's visited a Parmesan factory or a prosciutto manufacturer knows that you have to put on a complete gown and headset, and
It's like going into surgery.
It's like going into surgery to even walk around the place. So, just adding a mask is all you have to do.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you so much for painting that picture for us. And, speaking of villas and cooking outdoors and fire pits, and Mara Solomon, who is our villa expert, who I'm going to turn to next. I just want to mention to everybody that that's how I met you guys. I met Maria and Brian originally at a dinner party that Mara was throwing in this medieval village that's been turned into a villa where you can sleep 22 people. And there was the outdoor fire pit. Remember? And they make pizza and everything. I mean, Mara, wait, can you unmute yourself, Mara, first of all?
Yes, I certainly can.
Great. And tell us a bit about, the villa scene. And you must be very busy right now trying to figure out how people are gonna, I mean, are the people who are, when are people going to first start renting villas, do you think? When is that going to happen? July?
Well, we still have people who are planning to travel in July. And, along with Andrea and Jennifer, all of us, we're watching the clock. It's the decreto. Maybe something's going to come over your transom while we're still on the line, that there's news is going to be coming out. We expect something tomorrow, certainly by Monday. We're looking for a change in the decreto. And then, from there, that will give us some indication of really what we can structure. But we absolutely have people who are ready to roll for July.
Right. And so tell us, what are some sort of home bases that you might recommend most? If somebody wanted to rent a villa in Italy this summer, first of all, is it even possible, or is everything fully booked already because of all the people who couldn't go last year and they had to move their booking to this year? So what's available, but also what area, if you could choose one or two locations that would just be the best places to be this summer during the pandemic, where would you choose?
Again, difficult with Italy. We all love it so much. Of course, the Dolomites. I always think about the Dolomites. Stunning in the summer. I have a very soft spot in my heart for the Val d'Orcia in almost in any season for sure. And I think there's a sense of space there. The landscape is this extraordinary open, you have just a sense of openness there. And I think it is a natural draw in a year like this. Yes, there are villas available, and no, there are villas that are already booked. It's really a mixed bag, and it depends a lot because, of course, Europeans are anticipating being able to travel. So they love this form of travel as well. So we've got people who are making and unmaking plans and have been, unfortunately, for a while, and are ready to roll. So definitely it's an opportunity. I'm totally with my colleagues. This is going to be an extraordinary year to be in Italy. And it's absolutely worth checking out because there's still opportunity.
One reader asked the question, thoughts on renting a house in Tuscany as a home base? I mean, we all dream of the villa in Tuscany, right? I mean, I think they've made movies about it. But what would you say are the pros and cons of that at this moment?
Well, I think the con is going to be availability and the need to move quickly. I think one of the challenges that we've all been experiencing in this situation for over a year now is the changing nature of the regulations. And as everybody said, the Italians are very serious about the regulations and they're following them. And if people say, no, you can't come, or no, you can't get in that van with that many people, that's what happens. So, I'm extremely optimistic about Tuscany for sure this year. I think there's a natural expansiveness, just what Maria and Brian were saying about outdoors. Everything is outdoors. The whole life moves outside. It's very, very doable. I certainly am an advocate for going and being rather than going and doing. I think the whole moving around piece, there's so much we want to experience in Italy, and the sweetest moments right now, particularly, I think are going to be those times with people, especially very locally. I mean, there are beautiful, beautiful villages all over Tuscany, and of course Umbria, and of course, et cetera, et cetera. But and being with people there now, I've been saying to our guests, and I'm sure my colleagues would agree, the welcome from the Italians this year is going to be so extraordinary. I mean, I well up with tears every time I talk about it, because it's such a tender moment for them. And I think as soon as we can be in their presence, that's the beautiful flowering of the Italian character.
That's beautiful. Another question that came in from a reader was, what castles besides Broglio can one stay in with a daily chef? And it just reminded me of when you and I were traveling through, back when I was on assignment for Condé Nast Traveler, and you and I traveled in Italy inspecting all these villas, and there were these castles, these stunning castles that you could rent them, and you could certainly hire a cook to come in every day. And in fact, they really only need to come in once a day because there's so many leftovers. You just warm up the leftovers for like breakfast the next morning and lunch. But tell me a little bit about, I mean, is it possible to stay in a castle in Italy this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Year?
And
Yeah.
the fascinating thing I think about castles or villas or any of these in the Borgo, where we were at Cadipesa with Maria and Brian, I think part of what makes it interesting is you're really experiencing the culture and community that was driven by the presence of that castle. These were whole economic units. And when you stay there, you really get a feel for that. So it's an extraordinary sort of 360 on what it is to really live in Italy. Castles are large. All of them will have staff. Certainly we can add staff, but I think the real sort of sense of it is the part of the castle that's castle-y, and then the part that's the granaio and the cantina and all the different pieces of it, where a guest really gets to sense all of the coming together of those as economic units, which is part of the culture of Italy still to this day, to a certain extent.
Right. And one last question. You've told me a few times that one of the best kept secrets, one of the most underrated things, nobody ever thinks about renting a villa in the wintertime, like for the holidays, right? Like everyone's all trying to go during the summer or the early fall. And so they're paying these sky high prices and they can't get what they want. And if they would just think about going during the winter time, I mean, maybe it's a little chilly, but so you wear a sweater. And I'm just wondering what you might be expecting for this year, this kind of holidays, 2021. Would that be a good opportunity for such a thing?
Absolutely. In fact, I heard an extraordinary thing from one of my friends in Positano, that Positano is thinking about staying open through Capodanno this year, through the new year. And usually they shut down after November 1st because they're all exhausted and spent and they need to go away and take a break. But because of all that's gone on, word has it that the coast may stay open through the new year, which is a mind blower, especially if they're still lighting the candles. And, we've traveled with my family over the winter. It's very magical and it's really different. I think this is why we encourage those. I'm sure so many of the people on this call know Italy well and have traveled there many times. It's extraordinary to really get to those places that are lesser known, to go in these other seasons when the pacing, the nature of the interactions, the whole experience of the countryside, the food, the wine, et cetera, it's different. And it's absolutely worth experiencing. And why not this year?
Right. Great. Mara, thank you so much. Moving right along, Marcello, our Sicily specialist. Marcello, please unmute yourself because we want to hear. There's so much interest in Sicily. Many readers pre-submitted questions about Sicily, and they're saying a lot of them want to know what's the best timing. When would you recommend? Would you say the summer, the fall, this year, given the situation Sicily's in right now?
I tend not to push too hard towards the summer, mid-July and August, just because it gets overrun by a lot of people coming back to Sicily, and the heat, and the types of things they can do, unless they want to be in the mountains and they want to be in a villa or on a boat, and doing something a little bit more private. This year, I mean, we're already there, but June is still a great time to come. But I think this fall is drawing a lot of attention because people feel a bit safer, and they kind of thinking that, the way things have been changing so much back and forth, that by the time we get to that period, there'll be a little bit more stability. I mean, I love all 12 months out of the year. I know that's an easy answer.
Yeah.
But,
I'm just wondering about with COVID and with the sort of situation and different, and just moving around. And,
at least for what we do in Sicily, is a time that I feel comfortable. When, August, like I said, we get everyone coming to Sicily.
Yeah.
A lot of Europeans, a lot of Northern Italians wanting to come back, all the Sicilians who live all over Europe coming back home. So I feel that by the time we get to the September, October is a nice time. November's beautiful. I love going into November. I mean, it's after the harvest season, but you can be on Etna in a private space. I mean, this year you're going to be quiet. And you always have that option in Sicily to kind of pull away. I think a lot of the things that you see that are trends that people are forecasting in travel, where we want to go slower, we want to do things, like Mara said, like being instead of doing, has always been kind of our mantra in Sicily and the life that I've lived there. So I think we're really well suited in Sicily to not just do slow travel, but stay travel. I know it sounds like a thing, but it's just the way it is there.
I was in Taormina once in early December, and it was actually sunny and clear and gorgeous. And I felt like, wow, who knew? Early December in Sicily. Does anybody ever go, or is that just crazy?
Taormina usually closes down towards the end of October, as do the Aeolian Islands by mid-October, first week of October. So, and it depends on what happens this year, right? They might stay open longer. The Four Seasons is opening there, so they might want to stay longer, open longer. Etna is a great opportunity to be on a volcano and tour vineyards and eat pistachios and go from winery to winery, and Taormina is 45 minutes away. The winter sun is amazing. It's some of my beautiful times of year there with my kids growing up, is going on Etna. You can be in the snowy areas, or you can be on the beach and probably not swimming, but definitely enjoying the sun. So holidays for me have always been part of my life in Sicily. So I think it's a beautiful time to come, and we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
We do get a few guests every year, but it's not the most popular time.
And what about the Aeolian Islands and just like the idea of taking boats? I feel like in this pandemic era, wherein a lot of people have been asking about taking boats, being on a boat, on the water, in the water. And I'm just curious, what is the situation there with sort of coastal Sicily and the islands? And
right. So, I mean, moving to the islands, you take hydrofoils usually that are just like the bus system.
right.
Those are limited capacity, but we can also organize private transfers to the islands. So it's not a problem if you want to do something of that nature. I think going to the Aeolian Islands is always a tough fit when people want to come to Sicily for a week or 10 days. I always try to make sure people have at least 3 full days in the Aeolian Islands just to kind of be, if not more. But there's ways to go about it. I think getting on a hydrofoil might feel, I don't know how comfortable I would feel on a hydrofoil, even though I'm fully vaccinated. There's some sort of that memory takes time to go through. So honestly, I think that, there's so much to do in the mainland right now, and the times that usually people spend.
Well, you can still take a boat like for a day along the coast of Sicily, right? I mean, that's.
Oh, there's a lot of,
there are plenty of day trips for people who want to be on boats.
Sure. I mean, even to the Aeolian Islands, we can do that for a day.
Yeah.
Go to Salina, have a wonderful lunch, visit a caper farm, or go to Lipari, and beautiful winery overlooking at least 3 or 4 that you can see off in the distance. So there's ways to to explore a lot of that and give people a taste of, different things,
Yeah.
sea, land, island.
Yeah, cool. Well, Marcello, thank you. Wish I could snap my fingers and be there right now.
Yeah.
So now we've gotten a lot of, I haven't even had a chance to look in the Q&A box, but we've got 38 questions in there, it looks like to me. So maybe Brooke Wilkinson, who's on the team here, and Billy Cohen, who are both editors here at WendyPerrin.com, and probably wish they were in Italy right now as well. Do you guys want to help me sort of, Brooke, have you had a chance to look at what's coming into the Q&A box? Are there particular questions that you think would be great?
Yeah. Thanks everyone for submitting your questions. We got a couple different themes going. One, I think people have some questions about the exact dates. Now we know we can't give for sure solid information yet about when US travelers will be allowed in. There was some news a little while back that in mid-May travelers are going to be allowed in. It turns out that that is EU and UK, and please, any Italy experts, correct me if anything I say is wrong, but my understanding is that as of May 15th, EU travelers, UK and Israel will be allowed in. Wendy mentioned the requirements a little while back, vaccination, a previous infection, or a recent COVID test, negative COVID test. We are thinking that it will be mid-June, June 15th, that travelers from the US will be allowed in under the same requirements. Does anyone have anything different or to add to that? Jennifer? Yeah.
Hey, Brooke, hi. Yeah, so we know for sure in France that it's the 9th of June that they open to for foreign travel. And the expectation is that it will be mid-June for all EU to open because of the health pass that they're coming up with. Now, in Italy, we don't have an exact date yet. And in the UK, we don't have an exact date yet. But in France, they actually put a roadmap out that says June 9th, if that helps.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, and Jennifer, you mentioned the Green Pass. There are also a lot of questions about what do I use to prove that I've been vaccinated? We all here in the US have these CDC cards. Can any of you speak to what will be accepted as proof of vaccination, what this Green Pass looks like, whether it will be?
We don't know yet, unfortunately. We're still waiting for it ourselves. I also was vaccinated in the US. I took the COVID-free flight over, and I have firsthand experience that it's amazing. So if you do plan on coming, definitely take the COVID-free flight. I don't think that quarantining will be necessary anymore, but at the same time, it really was, it just worked perfectly. And within 30 minutes, I had my negative test, went through immigration, got my bags, and I was out the door. So it was really impressive. So I would highly recommend that. We should have details soon about the EU health pass. And I know each country is testing their own way, but nothing has been announced yet in any of the countries that I operate in. So we're still waiting.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. And we have an article on entry requirements for all of the countries that are open to US travelers or have announced specific dates, such as France. So I think maybe Billy can put that into the chat so you guys can check that, and we'll be updating that as soon as we hear anything.
Sorry, just one more thing, just to keep in mind that even though June 9th is the open date in France, the country won't be fully open until July 1st. So there will still be restrictions in place like curfew and some other restrictions. But on July 1st, they intend to fully reopen.
Okay. Great. Let's see what else. There are some questions about rules about wearing masks. Will masks be required for entry into museums? We talked a bit about that, and on trains. Anyone talk about those restrictions? Andrea? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Brooke. Right now, masks will be requested whether you're on a plane, whether you're on a train, whether you're on a hydrofoil, you're going into a museum. There is actually talk that when we do reach 30 million people vaccinated, and the expected date for that is the 12th of July, that masks will then no longer be needed outdoors. But again, this is nothing official. This is just presumptions that have been made.
And the rules, I believe, are the same for Italians, residents of Italy, and for tourists. Is that true?
Absolutely.
What about, Andrea, you mentioned people asking about coming from Croatia or Turkey, or some country that's already open. One viewer asked, can you say something about traveling to Italy from another EU country? I think also they mean, will this be difficult even once Italy is open? So maybe you can talk about what if it's possible to get there right now from a different country that's open, and once Italy is open, how easy is it to plan a multi-country trip?
So I think that will become much easier when we do have the EU Digital Green Pass that Jennifer mentioned earlier. I also wanted to add to that our Prime Minister was speaking about creating an Italian pass, which would allow us to welcome visitors. He didn't specify from where. In the meantime, until we have the EU pass. But again, that is something that was mentioned by him, but it's not something that has been officially stated right now. So it's a lot of things in the air. I personally traveled within the last 2 weeks to Mexico for a meeting, and I traveled through Turkey, through Istanbul, and on the way back I returned through Amsterdam. And I can tell you that it was quite painless. I followed the requirements, which were very, very clear. And, there was absolutely no delays whatsoever, or nothing different than what it would have been pre-COVID.
We're getting a lot of questions about the COVID-free flight. Andrea or Jennifer, can you explain what that is to our viewers?
Yeah, Jennifer, would you like to take this, as you had personally the experience?
So the COVID-free flight is a flight that you can currently fly from either Rome or Milan to JFK, Atlanta, and they're opening it up to some other airports. I'm not sure, Andrea, if they've announced any other airports right now. I know American Airlines hasn't announced Dallas, for example, but I think they're doing JFK. Alitalia is doing JFK to Rome. Delta to Atlanta. But anyway, so before you depart from your city, you take a PCR test for travel 2 days, 48 hours before the flight time. And you get to the airport, and you have a lot of self-declaration forms to fill out. You have a few things to do online, and you also have to give them the documentation of your negative COVID test. And you go on board, you still wear your mask the entire flight. And as soon as you land in Rome or Milan, you go directly to get your COVID test. You don't go to immigration first. You go directly, you get your COVID test, you wait for the results. Like I said, they were very, very fast. It was probably within 20, 30 minutes. We had our negative test results. Then we could go through immigration, and then from immigration, get your luggage and exit customs to your car and driver or your taxi, whichever method of transport you'd like to use. And then on the return, when you depart here, you have to also do another COVID test 48 hours before departing. And you present that at the airport upon check-in here. And again, some self-declaration forms, and you're on your way. You board, you of course masked the whole time, and whatever the requirement is in the US at that time. When I went, the requirement was I had to quarantine for 3 days in New York and get another test done. But it depends on what's happening at that time.
And that flight is available to the people who can enter Italy per the current regulations, right?
Yes. So currently it's available for business travel. It's available for residents in Italy, or American residents that, Americans like me, I'm American, so I have an American passport, but I reside in Italy, so I was allowed to travel. But eventually it will be open for tourism. And there's actually there was talk in the news, I don't know if it was yesterday or today, that our Prime Minister announced that he is going to push for more COVID-free flights, and they're working on that. So not even just within the US, but also within Europe. And we also have a COVID-free flight between Rome and Milan, and also COVID-free train, I believe, Rome to Milan. So it's basically just that level of assurance that everyone on board with you is COVID tested and clear to travel. And also it eliminates quarantining.
Maria, Brian, do you want to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say that we speculatively bought these tickets on American for our July trip about a month ago. We saw that American had announced it, and they were going to have these flights, and so we speculatively booked it for July. It's fully refundable, and we've actually already changed it once to extend our trip because we felt there was no penalty or anything like that, because we felt like we could stay a little bit longer than we wanted to. So and we anticipate that the vaccine card may replace the test here, the test when you arrive in Italy, so we fully expect to just, like Jennifer says, go through the motions and walk out of the airport.
Great. Can anyone speak to the vaccination program in Italy, how things are going, getting the population there vaccinated?
I can say here in Rome, it's starting to move really fast. It wasn't at first, but I know a lot more people now here in Rome that are vaccinated. I was looking at the numbers just before, and I think we're about 450,000 vaccine doses a day, which is a good number compared to where we were about a month ago. So it's similar to what you've experienced in the US. It started off slowly, and then all of a sudden it just went out of the gate. And it seems like that's what's happening here. I think, and then I read a statistic that said in the next 27 days, we'll have another 10% of the population vaccinated. So it's moving fast.
Great. Okay, we've had a lot of nuts and bolts questions. I want to ask a dreamier question. Would you recommend Puglia, Palermo, Sicily, or the Lakes region as less crowded, but equally or more interesting in terms of food and culture to Florence, Rome, or Naples? We're thinking of going to Italy in September if Ireland isn't open by that time. Hard to pick, huh? Marcello, yeah.
Well, I heard Sicily, so I think that, what was the time of the year? I missed that part. Huh?
September.
Okay. No, I think it's a great time. I think this year will be, that time of year is already going to be less of the traffic from the summer from European travel. And it's a great time there. You still have the warmth of the summer. You have almond harvest, olive oil, wine, and Etna even going into the middle of October, third week of October. So I think it's the perfect time to travel there. And I think in terms of crowd and movement, you'll have Sicily, pretty much yourself, kind of, in a way. I think there'll be movement. It won't be the movement of past years. So that's my vote.
Maria and Brian, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I was going to say that it really depends on, how comfortable you feel. If you feel comfortable going to the cities, or if you'd prefer to stay in the countryside. I know that during WOW Week, Dr. Trish gave the talk, and he was saying, countryside and open spaces are good because everybody can be outside. I personally do not feel uncomfortable being in a city kind of atmosphere, because I think there will be less people. The Italians have been very good at wearing masks with the rules. You can still eat outside in September, they're throughout most of the country. I mean, I think that it really depends on what you prefer, because those are going to be very different experiences. I mean, going to the lakes, or going to small villages in Sicily, or going to Rome and Florence. I mean, a lot of the things to see that are cultural are inside in Florence. So that could be a deterrent. Whereas in Rome, a lot of the beauty is outside. So they're just two different kinds of cities. So it really depends. I think people should really, even though we have a different kind of world environment now, you should still do the things you want to do and pick the kinds of experiences you feel comfortable with.
Marcello?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think it also depends on your threshold of what works for you. But I also think what we've discussed is a lot of the restaurants opening up anyways during the season, and I think that will continue through. There's performances at the Greek Theater in Siracusa that'll be going on in July, where you can watch ancient Greek tragedies. Last summer, you know, a lot like the Teatro Massimo Bellini in Catania, the Teatro Massimo in Palermo did operas outdoors. So there's a lot of, Palermo's now has a large section that's pedestrian walking, no cars. So there's a lot of arts and performances also going on in the cities. So you can get a balance of a lot of things. And if it's too much for you, you go out in the countryside and enjoy that as well.
Marcella, while I have you, we have a question. Are the restrictions the same on Sicily as they are on the mainland?
It depends. You know, there's times in parts of Syracuse, where I live in Sicily, where even in one of the 8 parts of the regions of Sicily, of Syracuse, sorry, small towns were red, while all surrounding that were orange and yellow. So if you lived in one, you couldn't go see a family member there or not. I think we're coming out of that. And I think they'll be opening up a bit more. There might be some hesitancy going into the summer months, but as vaccinations tick up, I think they're opening up to 40-year-olds. So it says next week in Sicily. And there was talk of trying to vaccinate the islands first. That hasn't happened, but hopefully it does before the summer and they get proceeding with that. So it kind of, like everyone's saying, there's a wait and see kind of how things evolve.
Andrea, you mentioned that the trains are running at 50% capacity. We have a viewer who wonders if that's going to, if you think that may be increased by the time US travelers are allowed in. 2 seats available per 4 means long waits for seats available.
I've actually personally not found that, Brooke. You know, we do have a lot of trains running on the hour, every hour, if not even more. So far we haven't run into problems of people not being able to get on a train if they want to. I do believe that as, you know, numbers of COVID do decrease, as we increase our vaccinations, they will perhaps increase, you know, the seats available on the train. But right now it's running at, they are running at 50% capacity.
Thanks, Andrea. Wendy, do you want to jump in?
Well, are reservations always required to take the trains?
On the fast trains, yes, Wendy. On the high-speed trains, the you know, Frecciarossa, yeah.
Okay, great. That was another. There's another question here that I just really want to ask. I feel like maybe we've answered it, but I still want to ask it. Is it realistic to expect the authentic Italian experience in 2021? In the countryside, small boutique hotels? Isn't it better to wait until 2022 when there is more clarity as to what is actually open? That's the question. I have a feeling that the group would give it a resounding no, go in 2021, but who would like to answer that? Because the reason I'm so intrigued by the question is that I think this is what is on so many travelers' minds. I think a lot of travelers just assume, okay, wait until next year because of all the uncertainties of this year. And yet I feel like to wait until next year is passing up a really unusual opportunity. Yeah. And you're going to end up with all the crowds of next year.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, right now, if you come to Italy, you're only going to be with Italians and a few expats.
And they'll want to see us. They'll actually.
The authentic Italian experience is what it is in the moment. I mean, I like what Laura said earlier. You know, that's why we devoted the last 20 years to having this place in Umbria and going there so much, is because we like just being there. Home is where we are. So whether we're in Connecticut or there. And I just really feel like it's been 15 or 16 months now. We left on December 12th, 2019. And I remember taking pictures in Rome the night before our flight saying, wouldn't it be great if Rome was deserted like this all the time? December 7th. You know? And I'm like, exactly. Horrible, all wrong. And I really can't wait to get back, and I want to see I want to be there. And you know, just like you have to be there. It is what it is when you're there. That's all I can say.
I think maybe Mara or somebody else said, I mean, the Italians are going to be so happy to see you. They're not, it's not going to be like, you know, the end of August, you know, 2 years ago, when the hotels, everybody's so tired, everything's been so booked, it's hot. now I think they are just so excited. I mean, even in talking with hotels when I'm making arrangements now, they're so happy to hear from me. They're so happy people are coming. They're just going to be I think it's going to be wonderful. Plus, I mean, nothing has really changed in the Italian lifestyle. They've always been eating outside. There's always been things outside, so a lot of that, of what is the safest things to do, that's always been a part of Italian life anyway. So it's not like there are any artificial constructs, it is the Italian life.
It's not, I mean, but they have created these, just like we have here, igloo villages that are basically outside, inside. There is that going on for sure. But
Yeah.
Mara, did you have something to add? Mara, your hand is raised. Did you have something?
Sorry, I think it's been said. I think I might argue that being there, it's about what your approach is to the trip. And I think if you come wanting to be authentic yourself, you will have an authentic experience of Italy. I think it's, speaking very broadly, one of the things we most appreciate about Italy is Italians are Italians. And it's very, very important to come yourself, being yourself, ready to take them as they are. That's what makes it authentic.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is 7 o'clock Eastern time, so we have gone through an hour. We still have a lot of questions here. Do you guys have just a few more minutes so we could get through just a few more questions? We've got 2 people for whom it is 1 a.m. right now in Italy, so I'm very hesitant to ask for a few more minutes. I know you must be very tired, but there are just a lot of people with a lot of burning questions. Can we take maybe 5 more minutes? And I'll ask them really quickly, and anybody who wants to answer, just chime in. So were there any notable hotels that closed during the pandemic? Mara?
None that comes to mind.
Huh. That's great news.
Well, one thing I wanted to add on that is there are changes there as here. Somebody who ran a beautiful little restaurant may have decided they couldn't make the jump. And it's very important in your preparation for travel to really reach out and find out who's going on, who's out there and recouping and doing new things. People are moving. People who are a chef now are doing private work only. People who had restaurants closed them and turned into other things, and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not speaking to hotels, but I think generally it's very important to know that you're really making a connection with somebody who is still in business.
Yeah.
Sure.
Wendy, also, I think one thing important to mention is many of the hotels, they actually took the opportunity to stay closed perhaps a little longer than what they would have done normally and do a lot of renovation work. So I think, as you know, we have many guests who return to Italy often, and they often return to the same hotel where they have their memories. They're going to see some they're going to have some great new surprises when they come back.
And we have a lot of hotels opening now too. There's a lot of new openings this year, especially here in Rome. We have so many new openings.
Tell us about what's opening.
We have the Hoxton, which just opened 2 days ago. I saw today. We have the owners of the Capri Tiberio Palace and the Villone here in Rome are opening 3 more properties. We have the W, we have the Addition. Eventually we'll have the Corinthia, we'll have the Rosewood, we'll have the Bulgari opening, and we'll have Mama Shelter opening, and Soho House is opening, all in Rome. That's just Rome. So, and we've seen like Tuscan hotels that have extended their season, staying open until the end of November now. So, I think, people are trying to make, the best of the year. And also to Mara's point about restaurants, I was so impressed early on in the pandemic, how so many restaurants who don't normally deliver and don't, takeaway is not really in the culture here. But it's completely the culture here now. And some of the most amazing Michelin star restaurants to an osteria or trattoria they all do takeaway now, and they've really reinvented themselves. So it's a testament to what they've done. It's incredible.
Yum. Andrea, did you have something to say about hotels?
Absolutely, and I know Marcello, he has a beautiful hotel opening on Sicily, just outside of Palermo, the Villa Egea. We also have the Four Seasons will be opening, of course, the San Domenico Palace in Taormina as well. So there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of newly renovated hotels, and as Jennifer highlighted, some great new properties opening up as well.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing I think is in Sicily, there's towns where there's so many restaurants. The island of Ortigia, I think, had 450 dining spots. And a lot of them could have been people who were selling cell phones the year before, decided to open up a putia or some kind of a small, tiny little restaurant in the corner. It's kind of helped kind of clean some of that up. So while I'm glad they moved on instead of like making fruit and real places that they had a season last year. I mean, they had a lot of Europeans coming down to Sicily. Sicilians are tough and resilient as one of the poorer areas of Italy in keeping, staying afloat. So a lot of the really great places have stayed, and some of the other stuff has kind of been cleaned out. Properties that have opened up, as Andrea mentioned, in Palermo and Taormina. Some of the smaller boutique places struggled, but other ones had a season last year that were quite busy. They weren't Americans, but they had a lot of Europeans coming through. And then, they closed longer. So they usually are closed November, December, January, February, March, and they would be opening up just about now. So that helps, stay afloat, not be paying people and keeping them on staff. So hopefully the good ones will stay, and we'll clean up a little bit sometimes. It's okay.
Here's a question. Can you please speak to difficulties, if any, with how tourists will receive medical care if necessary, given the hospital situations with COVID? I think those hospital situations are pretty much a thing of the past. I mean, my understanding is actually medical care is good. Well, but you tell me, Andrea or Jennifer in particular, since you live there, can you tell us about the local medical care?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, very impressive. So many different stories, but yeah, I mean, that would be the least of my worries, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I second that completely. It's again, very impressive what they do here.
And so if somebody were to get sick on a trip that you guys had arranged, like what would you do in terms of helping them out in terms of local medical care or whatever they needed?
Yeah, I mean, I know doctors here in Rome who have been going to do house calls and going to hotels and doing COVID tests and things like that. Most hotels have doctors on staff on call that can, bring them around. We operate a 24/7 service, so we would always be available in case there was an emergency to help our clients on the ground. And the pronto soccorso, the hospitals here, they're all very capable, and you receive fantastic care. And it's not like in America that you need to show insurance or pay and so on. I mean, even the PCR tests, I think I did see a question about the PCR tests. Do you have to pay for it? But the price of the tampone of the test here is anywhere from 25 euros to 100 euros, I think, for a test, where I think my husband paid $180 in New York.
Yeah, I think the overwhelmed hospitals, that was a thing.
That's a thing of the past.
That was February, March of 2020, same way it was in New York, the big cities. I mean, that was when we were overwhelmed, all of us were. Another question here, what area of Italy do you recommend traveling to at Christmas to get a nice Italian holiday experience? I just love the idea of going to, having been to Italy over Thanksgiving, I don't think I've ever been to Italy for Christmas, New Year's, although I've heard wonderful things from friends of mine who have gone. I've loved it for Thanksgiving. And Andrea, you were saying the other day that you recommend Milan for Thanksgiving. Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you all could choose, like, what would be a great Italian holiday experience for those people who want to go, wait and go in the winter, in December?
Dolomites, without question.
Really? It's not too, for skiing or just for atmosphere?
You know, you don't have to ski, and the skiing is spectacular, but just being outside, walking in the snow, I mean, it's just so beautiful, and it's extraordinary. The Dolomites are amazing. I mean, but anything, and I think this gets back to the whole idea of really local culture in Italy, which, you know, villages, they have outdoor. We were in Castiglione d'Orcia, qualcosa, yeah, Castiglione d'Orcia. A huge wood pyres all through the city, and people outside drinking the Italian equivalent of mulled wine. I don't even remember what they were calling it. Music, families, all night through midnight, burning in the middle of the street. It was extraordinary. And then we went to a Gregorian chant. I mean, amazing, just amazing.
I love the small village. You know, the north is great, but where we live in Umbria, which is more central Italy, you know, so it doesn't necessarily snow. It's not that cold, but it is winter. But I mean, our town is just, I love it. And they decorate it so beautifully, but not in a gaudy manner, not over the top, not overly commercialized. And although there is a band of young men who dress up like Santa Claus and play instruments and walk through town, but you know, it's cute. But we also have piped in music all over the town, which is really funny. Like, I don't know how this came to pass, but like when you're shopping from store to store, there's piped in Christmas music outside. And it's just like a great atmosphere. The shopping is great, all the little shops and everything. I love to shop, so it's wonderful. And both my family has come to spend Christmas with us there. Brian's family has come with little kids. We've had wonderful Christmases there. And, you know, I think that the thing about being in a smaller town is everybody kind of, you know, likes that you're there, that, you know, you can be included in, you know, if you're a visitor in some of the festivities. And it's festive without being too crazy over the top and all about buying presents and stuff like that. It's just really lovely. And the food.
Viewer wants to know can you repeat the name of the town you're talking?
I didn't say the name of the town because I don't want a lot of people coming.
So Umbria has a ton of little towns. Spoleto's like that. Gubbio has the world's largest Christmas tree.
Right, on the mountain.
Oh, so they say.
Amazing.
They have lit up this whole thing. It's not an actual tree. It's the lights that go up the mountain. And when we were there one night, we took, you know, you stop outside of town, you take a picture of the tree, you go into town, Santa comes riding a horse down the middle of the road. Everybody's like, you know, it's just a great atmosphere. Perugia also, live music in the streets. It has one of the great corsos in all of Italy, which is just jam-packed with people. There's usually a little carousel and all sorts of other little things for the kids.
Ice skating rink, little ice skating rinks, even our little tiny
the other
town.
Thing. And I don't know what it's like in the rest of Italy at Christmas, because we're usually just in Umbria, but just about every town has a little ice skating rink they set up.
Yeah.
And it's like so cute and cool. Great time to be there.
Andrea, what is Lake Como like for the holidays? Is that worth it, or is there some other place that's your favorite for the holidays?
No, it's absolutely beautiful here, Wendy. They also have now, since 3 years, the Lake Como Christmas lights. And the intention is that Lake Como will become the largest, most important natural nativity scene in the world. And so there's this huge project happening where all of the various towns and villages, they light up in a specific manner, the main buildings. And then they have the Christmas markets, they have the music, they have, you know, the chestnuts, the vin brûlé, they have the ice skating rink. I mean, there's a lot going on. But I think like everything in Italy, Wendy, wherever you are, they make the most of it because that's who the Italian people are. You know, we all remember when COVID hit, those images of people dancing on their balconies, singing in Naples, passing coffee to each other. And it's just who they are. It's total reflection. And we're so lucky we have 20 different regions throughout the country. Every region, every town within the region, they do something different. And there's something for everybody without a doubt.
Right. And Jennifer, is there a favorite place that you have for the holidays in Italy?
I have to say Umbria, actually. I have to say, Marie and Brian, I'm with you. Perugia and Gubbio and Todi and Assisi and going to all those villages, I felt the most festive in Umbria. And it's nice if you rent a villa and you have a fireplace and you know, you light the fire and you drink wine and truffle hunts, or, you know, eat, you know, the more heavier cuisine, you know, the tortellini and brodo, and it's
also great
wonderful.
because that time of year, it's dark by 5 o'clock, right? And so you go out and you have a big lunch, shop and everything like that, and then you can go back to wherever you're staying and light the fire and just hang out for the rest of the evening with bottles of wine and plates of cheese and stuff. It's really a great. You're right. It's the greatest place.
You can still go out and get, like, a lot of people I think want to know that they're going to be able to get exercise during the day, like go out, be active in the countryside so that they can come back and reward themselves with that delicious dinner. But like when is truffle hunting season anyway?
It's in November, from November kind of onward. The prestigious black truffles are in December and January and February. That we have in Umbria. The Alba is November, late October, November, December. There are truffles, but there are truffles pretty much, they're not year round, but you can go with the dogs and kind of do a truffle hunting experience. The ones in the summer are just not as, the black ones that we get in the summertime are not, they're called scorzoni. They're not really great truffles.
I think they're delicious, but they're not as prestigious as the others, as the white truffle or as the other time of year.
Yeah, but I mean, olive groves is for us in Umbria is end of October, early November. That's when the people are doing it, pressing the olives. That's when you get the new olive oil, the really bright green stuff that basically is just like so wonderful. You put it on some toasted bread. There's a celery festival black celery festival in Trevi that takes place around that time, which is a unique kind of, it's not black in any way, but it's a unique kind of celery that they grow, and it's just unbelievably tasty. So the November, December, you're gonna find a lot of the food stuff is still really great.
Billy, I hope you are putting your article.
That's when Billy came.
I hope you're putting that in the chat.
It was the beginning of November.
Earlier. I did, yeah. We came right when the new olive oil was being pressed, and it changed my life. It's just the best olive oil I've ever had.
Yeah.
I highly recommend that time of year to go to Umbria. It was wonderful.
But you didn't go truffle hunting, Billy?
I am reluctant to say this in front of 200 people. I like truffles. So we did not. We went gelato hunting. So we made our own gelato. That was more my stuff.
Mm-hmm. And Marcello, is there a place in Sicily that you think is the best place for the holidays?
I think, visiting places like Caltagirone, which is near the site of the Villa Romana and Piazza Armerina, it's known for its ceramics, but they also have, the nativities are very culturally important. They have live nativities that you can go, scenes that you can go see in caves, and have great wine and grilled meats and all sorts of things. But Caltagirone is a really beautiful town. Up in the hills. It can be very cold and very beautiful for the holiday season. There's a lot of lights in Siracusa. There's Santa Lucia, who is the patron saint of Siracusa. So you get all the cities are lit up with these beautiful frameworks around the streets. And so there's a lot of local festivities that make it come alive, which is very beautiful. And as mentioned, you can be these beautiful December days where it's just crisp, clean, and sunny. It's perfect for just exploring coastlines and stuff like that. So, you don't have, it's the warmest place in Europe pretty much during that time of year.
Thank you. And Mara, what about, is there some location for a holiday villa rental or your favorite villa for spending Christmas, New Year's?
Again,
you don't even want to tell us.
Yes, this is
the secret.
I want to go it's all fantastic. I think, I've been really concentrating on this theme tonight, and Maria and Brian, I really appreciate, this is where we come from, which is small and local and slow. And it's what we believe, this is why we believe in villa travel, because you're in a place, what did I think Marcello called it, a staycation. I mean, it's like you're staying in a place and you're really getting to know the people there, and you're blending in with their lifestyle. You're doing what they do in that time of year, which is very, very family oriented. It is very, it's a hangout time, it's a quiet time, and it's a community time. And that's what makes it so spectacular. I'd say any small town is a good place to go.
Yep, I'd say so. For because I just feel like, you know, this year particularly for those people who might be a little too nervous about venturing internationally over the summer, or their children aren't vaccinated yet for whatever, like let's say you have a big family group and there are a lot of young ones, but if they could look forward to, you know what, the holidays, and it's you can get an amazing value, right, by going more off season, but for the holidays, and having that authentic Italian experience that the whole family can enjoy. I just think that like this year in particular, it might be a real opportunity, the holidays in Italy, especially if they're like, I can't believe they're keeping Positano open through New Year's. That's astounding.
Also because they have because they also have the nativities in Naples. So that would be really special if you can do both. Yeah. Right.
Well, good. Well, I don't want to keep our friends in. I mean, Andrea and Jennifer, you guys are so, I can't thank you enough. It's now almost 1:30 in the morning your time, but I know that all of our viewers today are so grateful to you, so thankful that you did stay up late to share all these great insights and this great advice with them. So thank you to all of you here today. And we will actually be back next week. We're going to be I hope you all subscribe to the newsletter, because that's where we're announcing our travel talks. We're having a whole series of them. Next week's is very exciting, but you know what? I'm not even going to tell you what it is. I'm going to let you find out in the newsletter. So we'll be talking to you there, and we'll be back soon. Thank you again so much. All of you Italy experts, we really appreciate your time this evening.
Thank
Take
you.
good care. Buon
Bye-bye.
viaggio. Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Buonanotte.
Bye. Thanks.
Buonanotte. Bye.